Oops.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need a motion for the approval of...
Roll call first.
Mr. DeYoung?
Here.
Mr. Kometz?
Present.
Mr. Moran?
Here.
Mr. Paradiso?
Here.
Mr. Janowiak?
Here.
Mr. Schilling, liaison, is absent. Chief Flores?
Here.
Chief Leduc?
Here.
Attorney Adam Decker
Here.
is joining us remotely. Thank you.
Okay, now, I need a motion to approval of minutes for January 18th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Monthly reports, new business, Chief Leduc.
All right, sorry, my microphone wasn't on. Hi, guys, real quick. So the January 2021 EMS report, this is the highlights. You guys should have that in front of you. We had a total 143 patient contacts. Of those patient contacts, our transports, we had 71 ALS 1s, 3 ALS 2, 25 BLS. Of those transports, 81% were residents, 19% were non-residents. And then the only other thing I kind of want to point out to this is we added the billing description on the bottom. That's the amount of what we billed out. That is not the amount that we collected. If you look to the side of it where it says WPS and MD, WPS is Medicare, or MD is Medicaid. So they kind of, when we're talking about this down the road, we're writing things off. I just want you guys to kind of know about that. But so total dollars amount generated was 103,316.60. And that's all I have.
Chief, what is our receivables?
Our receivables for our just that month are collected that month.
They're year-to-date receivables.
I just have year to date would be about $45,555.
Okay.
And that's not accurate for our new upgraded rates. We receive money through two different attorneys for collections. We receive money, we're about a month and a half behind as the bills go out. So this is not an accurate depiction of December, actually.
So this 45,555, that's not our receivable balance. This is what we collected in the month, right?
That's what we collected in the month.
What was our outstanding receivable balance?
I don't have that with me, sir. I'm sorry. I could have that for you. Would you guys prefer that in your monthly report as well?
Just, the accountant in me was wondering what our receivable balance is and how much we're writing off.
So we do write off monthly, and then we do a 6-month write-off to the town. Last time, and I'm not 100% certain, I think Councilman Schilling, if he was here, would be able to give that number a little bit better. But I can get that to you guys, and I will email it to you.
All right,
So,
thank
Ralph,
you.
For some of that, because of COVID, Medicaid, Medicare only pays a certain amount regardless of what you bill out by law. And because of COVID for the last year, it became federal law that you could not balance bill them for that. So there's been some ups and downs in that because of the COVID world that we're in.
And that
But-
part, I understand, would have been written off, but I just want to see what our running receivable balance is.
Yeah, we do it every month. We write off a certain amount every month, and then we come with our large balance to the town council every 6 months. So we just did it in January. I believe it was right around 100,000 of write-off plus. But we do active collections. We have two different, since we moved systems, our bill generating system, we have two different lawyers involved with that. So it kind of gets complex, but it's going to be a lot this time since we raised. And like Steve mentioned, COVID and everything like that makes things a little
Actually, I'd
bit
like to see the whole aging, the buckets.
Absolutely.
how it
Let
goes.
me, I'll make a note and I'll get that to you guys here shortly.
Thanks.
No problem. And that's all I have. Sorry.
That it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Chief Flores?
Okay, from January 1, 2020 through January 31st, 2021, the members of the St. John Police Department logged 21,829 miles and responded to 563 law incidents. The investigation of these incidents led to 15 arrests with 20 charges being filed. There were 147 traffic citations issued, along with 184 written warnings for a total of 331 citations being issued during the month. Vehicle thefts totaled 0, other thefts were 4,733, and recovered property totaled 0. That's it.
Okay. All set, chief? Or?
That's it, yes.
New business, Chief Leduc.
I did neglect in my monthly report to give you guys a little bit of the fire calls. You should have that in front of you as well. May I go back to give you that real quick?
Sure.
My apologies. We had a total of 185 calls in general. Of those 185, we had one assist, or one in our Crown Point area of our town. 152 are lion's share in the town of St. John corporate limits. 2 in our Cedar Lake aspect of our town. Then we had 14 in Lake Hills where we assist them in that area. And then 8 with other departments in the area. That's it with my report. New business. The first item on new business, I would like approve of some new hires. The list is in front of you. Matthew Easto, Michael Haney, Nikola Vukovic, and Michael Chichelski.
These are all full-time, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve the 4 hires of Matthew Easto, Michael Haney, Nikola Vukovic, and Michael Sosliski, is it?
Nikola Vukovic, or Nico, and Mike Chichelski. Common spelling.
Okay. Have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Next item on new business for me, we recently lost one of our full-time employees to the city of Crown Point, Joel Hasselgren. So I'm asking you guys to review our hiring list, which you guys should have in front of you. Our hiring list, we're down to 3 people. The next person on our hiring list unfortunately does not have an active CPAT card. I have that on record. So the next person under that person would be Allison Semethy. I would like, looking for approval to offer a conditional offer of employment to Allison Semethy.
So, hold on, you got Jose Navarro, had no CPAT, 1 moves to the bottom of the list. Mike, we just approved. Amy Early?
Amy Early is the next candidate that does not have an
Does
active CPAP card.
Okay.
So we would go to Allison Semethy.
I have a motion to approve the hiring of Allison Semethy.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next few items is approval of our list of staff members. So this is something that comes about when we do our contracting with the Dyer aspect, or our unincorporated town aspect of our service area. So our first list we're going to go through is our full-time employees. This has changed since they approved this at the town council last meeting, just with the removal of Joel Hasselgren.
Okay, so this is the updated list.
This is the updated list, minus, of course, Allison. She hasn't.
Okay, so we just need a motion to approve the 2021 full-time employee list.
Please and thank you.
Could I just ask a question? Is this public record? Because I noticed all their personal addresses are on here.
Not that I know of, it shouldn't be.
So I did question this with our contracted aspect, and they said in the years past, they wanted the personal addresses on there. I would prefer that this wouldn't be public record, because it does have home addresses. I have a list that does not have those, that I would prefer, if we were to have this as public record, that be the list that you would approve. But I just mimicked what I provided to the town council.
Adam, could I ask a question?
Of course.
Could we just have this list? There's personal addresses of, actually, there's 3 lists that are going to be coming up for discussion, except the list without the addresses. So this doesn't make it into the public record.
Well, yes, I mean, I think those are valid concerns and considerations, and I think that you certainly may do that. if there's a request made for the records, we'll have to review it at that time. But for purposes of, for purposes of this list, yes, it certainly may be redacted to remove those personal residence addresses.
Okay, so Chief, I would just say no personal addresses on there, and I'm fine with that.
And also, if you guys prefer, we could maybe, if you want to table this, I provide a list without addresses, if that would be better for Adam and every party involved. I'm okay with that as well.
Adam, what would your preference be?
Well, so I guess there's going to be a list kept by the fire department and going to be transmitted to the town council, and would also be a record of this board, the Board of Safety. So I think that if you want to go back and redact those lists to remove the addresses and submit those to the town council, to the Board of Safety, and for whatever records the fire department keeps, that should be sufficient. The question becomes, if there's a public records request for, the meeting agenda or other items, I can't really tell you how we would have to respond to that at that time. But I guess for purposes of maintaining this, this list that would be kept with those bodies, that they can be redacted and submitted as such. And I don't know that, for purposes of the meeting tonight, that the addresses are going to become of public knowledge. They're not being put up on a screen, and they're not being handed out to anybody in the meeting room. So I'm not sure I answered your question, Kevin, or Mr. Chairman, but that's what I can offer.
Okay, well, can we go ahead and prove the list and go forward with it, and then the new list can be
Yes.
redacted? Okay. All right,
Yes.
so then I'll take a motion to approve the 2021 full-time list.
I'll make that motion to approve the 2021 list.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen. The next item is to approve the 2021 part-time list.
All right, so if I may, before we approve this, I know that you have some part-timers that are part-time and also volunteer. My only concern with that is what standard do they fall under? And what standard, are the standards for the part-time, whether it's training, attendance, et cetera, the same for the volunteer?
The standard for the volunteer is more stringent than our standard currently for the part-time.
So it gets, I think, as far as a management of this and a management from your seat as the fire chief, I think it becomes a gray area of what type of employment they're gonna be held to. I would like to see an employee under one purview. That's just my opinion. They can be a part-time, they can be volunteer. A lot of that I know is gonna be based on their location of their home and where they live. But I think if we're not gonna have a set standard for all, they need to fall into one or two categories, and that's just my opinion.
I agree with that.
For management purposes and for accountability.
Currently, some of the challenges we have with that is the part-time staff, the way that they are managed is, they're the ones that are working shifts on the ambulance or our ALS Quint. Our volunteer staff is basically on paid-on-call status currently. There is talks, and I would like to have some talks with you gentlemen and the council, maybe to move everyone to part-time to make some of that management a little bit easier, and it does help the clerk treasurer's office when it comes to, we do pay per call versus hourly salary when you're working part-time. So that's a little bit of why you'll see some people having dual roles. But yeah, I 100% agree with that idea.
So I guess my question is, do you want to do that before, I mean, we could approve these lists as they sit now and have more. It also comes into the hours worked and the other concerns that have been mentioned before, of if someone works so many hours part-time, but then they do so many more hours volunteer, what level do they fall into? How many hours have they worked? What benefits does that provide? What's the federal law to provide that? So again, just from a management side. So Or do you want to approve this now as a list of personnel and then change it later, or?
Well, we can't approve it, as you say, but then we're just gonna be going over again. If we get a change and correct it and do it one time right the first time, I think we're better off.
Do it all at once.
I would think if they're, I don't know which one, and which one's, you said the volunteer standard is higher than the part-time?
Well, currently, the part-time list, the part-timers have, the way that we are operating right now, no mandated, besides system training for EMT and paramedic, they have no mandated fire training. Now, when they are on shift, they participate in that fire training. But traditionally, you will see other departments and other agencies have X amount of hours you have to partake in.
They should be able to bring you training from their other departments, and that should work for training that they have received.
So-
With you as well.
Historically, in the past, that's what we do. We do share a training platform with other agencies in our MABUS division, where we share that information. The vast majority of these people on the part-time list are full-time firefighter, paramedics, or EMTs
Right.
elsewhere, so they are getting that training.
That's why, if they bring that information to you and say, I've done this training, records of this training, that should go into their file towards their training for St. John as well.
Yeah, that's I believe at the pleasure of the board, but I would agree, in the past, that's been the unwritten response that we have currently. Again, I would, that's what we act on right now, but at the pleasure of the board, I would accept any idea on that as well.
Well, I would agree with Ray, too. I mean, if they're full-time somewhere else.
Or else, and they're getting the same type of training you would be offering them, it should count towards training as well for St. John. I mean, it's nice to train with the department you're working with, and they do that here, when they're here working. But, you can't get all the training out of a part-time guy that's only here maybe 2-3 days a month that he needs. So he's getting it on his full-time department, which falls under the same laws of the state. So it should carry over to here as well.
And it does, like I said, we have a platform, we use a Target
Yeah.
Solutions platform for some of that and sharing that. We do all group trainings, we make sure all our assignments on our MABUS division are all the same, so we're not having a redundancy factor throughout different departments. And then while they are here, they're expected, and they do participate in our trainings on shift and our nightly trainings. We're training every shift, minus Sundays.
Chief, do you think you would have a problem with getting the volunteers to switch to part-time and have one part-time roster? Or, I mean, is this something that we could defer toward next meeting? And you work out internally, and then we could approve the list with whatever the requirements you choose to be correct?
I would actually prefer that. That's an opportunity that I'm looking for to speak to some of the council members on. But we do have support within the department to move towards the part-time status, which would help record keeping. It would help with some of the standards that we'd be able to have. I think it would immensely help the clerk treasurer's office. It would help them with going from a part-time pay per call. They just receive a 1 hour stipend to moving to more an hourly stipend. So a good example, if we could look at the list of Scott Clifford, he's one of the ones that are on the part-time side and on the volunteer side. If Scott's working part-time, he receives his part-time wage. If he comes to a fire as a volunteer and we're there for 8 hours, he just makes $16 for the entire fire if we're there for 8 hours. Versus if he was working, doing the same job, he would, as a part-timer, he would get his hourly salary. So I think there's a lot of benefit for this, moving them to part-time, but it's something that I had to speak to the town council on, I think, a little bit with permission from you gentlemen.
So what would be the estimated cost, have they operated as part-timers?
So it actually would go down because we're trying to change a little bit of our operation. We are going to more of a tiered response. Right now, as a call goes out as it is now, our pager goes off, and a volunteer, a part-timer, and a full-timer, our pagers will go off. There's no difference on where you are on the status. Now, if you're working full-time or part-time, you're expected to go because you're on shift. But part-timers and volunteers have the choice if they're going to come in or not. And that's for every call. We are looking to go to a tiered system saying that, hey, the on-duty crew will handle XYZ calls. And then say a structure fire comes in. That's where we're going to need more help. And that call for certain, we will call, as it's currently standing, our volunteers. So we are going to limit the amount of times a volunteer will be requested, but also I would like to increase their amount of salary per se. So I haven't ran the numbers, and there's opportunity in our volunteer list to look at our active volunteers, I think it actually would be a cost savings to the town. But it's information that I need to work with our dispatch system, which I have been finding on what will they go to, how can we do that. That's a long process with central dispatch.
If the volunteers were moved to part-time, would they have to be scheduled?
I would not think so. If they were moved to part-time, they would still have their part-time. If we have a call go out and where we tone them out or request them, they'll still be able to come, but they'll be giving a part-time salary, which I feel is more equitable for them. If you are a volunteer and you come and you're here for 8 hours and you get a salary of X, it's better for you being away from your family and volunteering your time. I think that's more equitable.
So you can control whether or not they're,
Yeah, and there's certain aspects of the volunteer.
With the tiered, if you made an SOG of these, like, would be a callback,
Yeah,
and at whatever level of call or the number of calls that are going on collectively at that time, and you chose to have the supervisor do a callback, then any available person could come back for a set amount of wage, set amount of time until the calls are cleared, and then go back.
it's something you see other agencies doing. It's more now the industry standard. Unfortunately, volunteering has changed in the United States as when I even first started, and I'm still relatively young. I think it would be beneficial. We may even be able to get more volunteers saying that, hey, instead of your pager going off 2,000 times a year for things that you may not even leave the station for, if I could promise you your pager may go off 700 times a year, but we're going to use you, you're not going to sit there, I think that may help get more people involved too. So it is a big project, but it's something that I'm looking to do with the help of you guys in the town council.
Anybody else? I think we need a motion then to delay the approval of the full-time and part-time list until next board meeting.
Full-time we did, so.
I'm sorry, the part-time and volunteer list.
So I would make a motion to defer the approval of part-time and volunteer until the chief comes up with his plan and determines what list is going to be.
I'll second that.
We have the motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I appreciate that, gentlemen. Just one more thing, or three more things, I apologize. So, approval or attempt to hire some part-time staff. Again, these gentlemen would go to our part-time list. I don't know if you want to probably do them all separately. So Thomas Clark, he's a paramedic. I'm looking for approval to hire Thomas Clark as a part-time paramedic.
Do we need a motion to hire Thomas Clark as a part-time?
So, again, the part-time employees, and we had talked about this, and this is just something I want to put on the record again, they're at-will employees.
Boys, yeah.
I'm thinking if Adam's on here, I'm thinking we could make a motion to defer the authority of part-time and/or, as of now, volunteer staff for the hiring and/or dismissal to the fire chief, because they're not sworn employees. Adam, is that?
Yes, Mr. DeYoung. I mean, you as the board have authority to oversee the hiring of not only full-time but part-time. So if, as a policy, the board wants to give that authority to the fire chief to hire the part-time, you certainly may do that. You're not required to have to vote on every part-time if that's the decision of the board and the policy of the board.
I think we're going to do the part-time and the volunteers.
Yeah, as long as they meet the requirements of the state to operate as a firefighter, I don't see any reason why we have to vote on a part-time or a volunteer.
Okay, I appreciate that, as long as it's up to you.
So I would make the motion then to defer the authority of all part-time and/or at this time volunteer hiring to the fire chief.
Motion to defer the hiring of the fire chief. Have a second?
I'll second that.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that's it, gentlemen, I appreciate your help.
Okay. Chief Flores.
Okay, just a couple updates on the license plate reader software that we got. It's up and running and live. There's just a couple parts of it that we have to tweak to get the live feeds on the hot list. But the investigative portion of it, where we can run plates and check plates, is up and running. So it's a pretty nice system. It's going to take some time to get used to learning it, because there's a lot in there that you can do with it. And it's an excellent tool. And we've already kind of been using it a little bit too. So I'm hoping within the next week or two, it'll be completely up and running to its full capacity. So just wanted to update you on that. The countywide auto theft task force, we were approached by the sheriff's department a couple weeks ago with all the auto thefts and carjackings and everything that have been going on in the area that's been spilling over into Indiana, all the way out to like Demont. They're even seeing it, coming from Illinois and coming there and stealing cars and so on and so forth. The sheriff wanted to put a task force together with all the Lake County agencies, especially the ones that border the Illinois-Indiana state line. So he reached out to us, Schererville, Dyer, Munster, Hammond. So he's looking to put somewhat of a task force together. I mean, you're familiar with like the Major Crimes Task Force. Something similar to that, to where if they have a big case, there's a group of officers, detectives that can get called there. If they have to put search warrants together, they have to interview a bunch of people. If there's a lot of evidence that needs to be preserved to secure everything, secure the scene, and then do some proactive patrols too, if in an event that they come up with information that something's going to go down, that there's this group that kind of takes care of that. So it's in the works now. They had their first meeting last week just to kind of put their heads together as far as how they're going to run it. One of the commanders at the sheriff's department, any auto theft task force there, he's going to kind of be running the show with that. So we're looking to get an officer or two involved in that. And again, it's not a full-time basis, just as needed if something comes up. So just want to let you know that we're kind of looking to do that. And finally, with all the snow that we've been getting a lot of complaints as far as cars parked in the street, people putting their snow in the street once they're cleaning it. We just want to remind residents, if it's snowing out, to get your cars off the street. The officer's been told that, give them a warning. If it's still there later on, tow the car. So, and then again, when you're cleaning your snow, don't put it back in the street. I understand people get frustrated because as the plows are going by, they, push the snow back in the driveway. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot they can do about that. So, they're doing the best they can. They've done a heck of a job out there, so we just ask residents to cooperate with us. So that's it.
Are we ticketing for
Yeah, we've issued some tickets, some warnings, and yeah, we sure have.
warnings first or
Yeah, and most of the time we tell people if it's still here in a half hour or hour, we're gonna tow it. It's moved pretty quick.
about snow in the street?
Yeah, there's been some warnings issued on that as well too. So that's it.
Okay. No public comment, and I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Have second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, meeting's adjourned.